whole whistleblower, the IRS whistleblower thing, the transcripts are out. Everybody can go through the whole thing so they can read the interview process, what the concerns happen to be. This whole situation with Hunter Biden, though, it appears that now the administration is trying to do everything possible to make it go away quickly. This is not going to go away. It appears that there's so many things that were done wrong, and I don't know exactly how much of it they're going to be able to prove, but this is going to be an issue every step of the way going into the election, to the point that right now you see more and more Democrats, in addition to seeing a president that is aging tremendously, looking at the whole situation with the son, saying, okay, listen, this thing is really getting out of line, super tasteless, and this can absolutely cost him the election. He may not even make it through a primary if this thing gets any bigger and more keeps coming out. You know what I mean? And so what's your take on this whole situation? What do you think would be the potential impact for the election? What would be, and by the way, fair play. What happened to the fair application of the rule of law? You have a lot of people coming out saying, well, I would have taken that deal. I would have, opposed to people that are actually doing time. You know what I mean? Like, this is really ridiculous. You know what I mean? When you look at the whole situation, and then when you see it anywhere from President Obama to just about everybody else out there saying, well, that nobody's except from the rule of law. Nobody's above the law. Nobody's above. Well, this doesn't look well for that argument. You know what I mean? Because obviously the way it's coming across is that some people truly are above the law. And so this is a really difficult issue, because I said a couple of things to you in the past, and one of them is I may not agree with the president or their positions, but I respect the office of the presidency. I am absolutely troubled when I know that there's always players around, right? Those bad actors that we talk about that will take advantage of the proximity to a president, to a senator, and they're trying to sell favors to other people. But when it's the son of the president who is recorded in conversations that are very incriminating, though, it's very difficult. I'm even angry about the fact that I'm saying, as a family, you are part of the presidency.
Absolutely, you have to.
It's a presidential family, right? When it's the nucleus of the family. So if everybody that is there is disrespecting the same office that they occupy, man, I think that they should deserve no mercy when it comes to this process. So, what's your take on this whole thing?
For me, at first, when I was first thinking about it, a part of me is feeling like, well, the president shouldn't be blamed for things that his kids is doing. But unfortunately, that's not true. Because like you said, this is something the whole family is a part of. Why? Because you're having conversations, he's a part of certain things. So now it's got to be bigger than, okay, whatever my kid does, it should have nothing to do with me. Unfortunately, that's not true. But I do believe you're not going to see the justice being served in the correct way. Unfortunately, like you said, they are, or some people are, going to get special treatment, and this happens time and time again. I think now we're going to be able to see it more in our face to where you notice it, but it's going to be something where what could or should happen or what would have happened to somebody who wasn't the president's kid, is not going to happen to Hunter. I don't think so, at least. I don't unless this is something that gets dragged out to where he, let's say Biden is not president. But
it's not just being the president's kid, though, because if this would have been Donald Jr., this right now,
it would have been hell. Yeah, that kid would have been like
orange
jumpsuit.
What we're seeing right now is that the office itself, in some cases, depending on who it is, right, and that's what creates that whole argument about the two-tier justice system that we're seeing right now. Depending on who he is, either they will apply it or they won't apply the rule of law, because that's what everybody's saying. Listen, if this would have been any of the sons or the daughters of Donald Trump, like somebody would have been locked up already, pat-rated in front of the,
There are hundreds of people locked up for the same damn thing. They're they're just not, they're just regular Joes. So that are just running around and having that issue. Here is something that I'm going to read this, if that's okay. It's a tweet from Simone Atiba. And it says, imagine being Joe Biden. Your son makes millions of dollars from foreign entities, but does not pay taxes because that would mean disclosing that he's engaged in foreign lobbying. With the millions of dollars and no serious job, he becomes a drug addict and illegally obtains a gun. All he tells them is that he is the son of the U.S. vice president at the time, and he claims that part of the money will go to the big guy. He promises them that his dad and top U.S. officials, he promised them access to his dad and to top U.S. officials. They hire him without any qualifications and pay him millions of dollars. Eventually, the information comes out, and the Justice Department has to investigate. The investigation drags on for 5 years, and eventually they strike a deal with him to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanors of tax evasion so that the government will not prosecute him illegally possessing a gun as a drug addict, a serious crime that has tens of thousands of Americans in prison for a year. Imagine being the same father who, as a senator, drafted a draconian anti-drug law that sent tens of thousands of black people and others to prison, confiscating all their belongings, and gave big speeches boasting that the drug addicts shouldn't be taken off the street. Now that your son is one of them, when you are asked about this case, you say you're proud of him and he has done nothing wrong. Imagine journalists and commentators like Joe NBC justifying it on television, singing your praises when their own child will have been in prison long ago for the same crimes. Imagine the people who believed in the rule of law watching the two-tier justice system so brazenly displayed. America's in a crisis. May God help us all. What the heck?
Well, I mean, listen, guys. He already had gotten a lot of support from mainstream media, and they are trying to do their best to minimize the significance of this. But I'm going to tell you, all it's going to take is a little bit, just a little more, to continue to come out, and just a little more of different places to actually be willing to put out there some of this conversation at the level, because I don't care what you believe. At some point, you just got to come to a conclusion of saying, you know what, wrong is wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong is 100% wrong. And this is getting to the point where it's becoming impossible to hide it. But if they're not careful, opposed to being concerned about general election, it's a possibility that he doesn't survive, not even the primary. Because even though right now you have a lot of people that don't like Robert Kennedy Jr., because of his positions about the vaccine argument, he has been very clear and some people have very strong positions about that, based on whatever conclusions they arrive to. But make no mistake about it, that guy is picking up a lot of steam right now. That guy is right now seriously in many living rooms being spoken about as a realistic possible choice to replace Joe Biden. And that's the reason why I keep telling you, I don't feel that everybody is going to be running for that primary is in yet. Because they're trying to understand as to whether or not, do we need to have a Newsom to jump in? Do we need to have another person that would be likable enough to be able to say, okay, here we have an alternative choice. It's not Kennedy, because we don't have, by the way, Kennedy becomes a president. I think they will need to be more concerned about Robert Kennedy Jr. than they need to be concerned about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, that's the reason why I'm telling you, not everybody's in yet. And I think that you'll see that in the next couple of months playing out based on the development of these things. How it's coming out and how the whole thing is going to be presented is going to have a significant freaking impact.
By the way, it's funny. Sorry, Alexi. It's funny that you mentioned that Robert Kennedy, because he is, the son of,
Correct.
And the nephew of,
Yeah.
and I think about that, and I think about whatever is happening with Trump and all of the attacks that he's going to and all that stuff, and I'm thinking, what is happening to what is brewing in Don Jr. In his heart, in his head, where is he at? The little boy, Byron, right? It's like these things. It's like everything that we do has consequences, and these guys are also gonna pick up steam. I don't know if it's gonna be right now, but definitely I know that the Trump family in politics in general is not gonna go away.
Become a dynasty that will.
100%. So
hey, can I tell you, in many ways, that's what I was hoping for Ivanka. I was hoping that Ivanka Trump was going to at some point pick up the mantle. It appears that
she did such a great job.
she did a phenomenal job, but there was also a lot of questionable comments that were made about the role that her husband was playing, and that at the end of the day, some of those things came out to be not necessarily to her father's favor. You know what I mean? This is somebody that was, it looks like, it appears that it was somebody looking after his own interests more than really representing what was actually taken. A lot of power was given, a lot of leeway was given, and again, it appears that there was also some favors involved, so I don't know if that's already tainted. The other thing is that if there was ever a time for a daughter to be standing by her side,
It's right
by
now.
the side of her father, was right now. This is when your father is taking a beating, and this is the moment in which you chose to disconnect yourself from the whole process. Listen, man, maybe that's just the way I see life, right? If you only behave well, if you only do your best when everything is going well, anybody can do that.
That's true.
You know what I mean? It's when things get tough. It's when you really don't understand what's happening with the other person. It's when you literally say, man, this really doesn't look well. And by the way, I'm running the risk of also being dragged through the mud.
Correct.
Just based on me standing by your side. But I'm going to be standing by your side because that is the right thing to do. And the fact that she's not doing that, to me, that just... politically, I do believe that there's a possibility for a Trump dynasty, political dynasty, to come out. But I think she's truly missing an incredible opportunity just by being
If you
standing
don't
by
show
her
up when it matters,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter
it
when you show
doesn't
up.
matter
Sure,
when
sure,
you
sure.
show up.
And unfortunately, I think that even if this whole thing that's going on with Hunter can change, what that means for the elections, I don't think it's going to change what he's doing with his life. I don't see him going to jail for any significant amount of time. I don't see any of those things happening. Why? Because unfortunately, there are gangsters, who operate on a different system. So if you're somebody who's a made guy, you don't got to worry about the same thing that everybody else got to worry about. And as much as we see these things and thinks that it's fictional, no, this is what happens in real life.
You're right.
So I'm not concerned with him or anybody in his family as far as what's gonna happen. I don't care what they did. If they blow up a country, they're gonna find a way to spin it. No, we needed to do it. And there was a way for us to get away with this. So I have zero thought in my brain that this is gonna get too bad for him, and for him personally. Now it could change the way the election is gonna go, possibly, but like I said, I think they're beyond the point of dealing with any of those things.
That being said,
Yeah.
for me, I go right back to the conversation I was having in the last podcast, which is pay attention and double down. If you don't like that there is it's very quite clear right now that there's a 2-tier system, go vote and go drag a bunch of people to vote so that you have the opportunity. Do not surrender your voice. That's the number one thing.
I didn't think you guys had that much to say about this topic. Because we can go another 3 hours just
No,
on